So some weird old girl comes up to you and tries to lead you on an adventure. The next thing you know, you're playing host to a party of rowdy dwarves, and one of them happens to be royalty. So you feed them, you give them drinks, and what do you put the drinks in? A Darth Vader mug? A genie mug? Some sort of muffin mug? No, we need a drinking horn worthy of Durin himself. So ladies, gentlemen and all variations thereupon, come with me as we get crafting this dwarven drinking horn. Now obviously the first step is going to be to get the drinking horn, and if you want the same drinking horn that I'm using, the link to where I bought it is in the description, #not sponsored. But after you've got the drinking horn, the first step is going to be to mark on where you want to draw the runes. To do this, lay the tape measure against the horn and mark on at 1 cm intervals. Then stretch a rubber band around the horn so that it touches each of the marked intervals. You can then use this rubber band as a ruler. And that's how you draw a straight line around a curved surface. Next we draw on the Dwarven Runes that we want to engrave into the horn. The translation for these is in the description. I'm also adding on a representation of Durin's crown. You might remember this image from the Fellowship of the Ring as it's on the doors of Moria. Now we use an engraving tool in order to make the runes. As always, it's best to use many light strokes rather than one big deep cut. It's especially important here to be careful that we don't cut too deep, else we'll affect the waterproofing on the inside of the horn. Now at the moment all the engravings are at this one end, which if it's standing upright could look nice, but there's this area down here which is largely blank. Now I do have this, which is a Dwarven hair bead that I brought from someone on Etsy when The Hobbit was originally released. I haven't checked this out myself, but according to the seller, this is the design of Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thrall, King under the Mountain. The hair bead that he has, it's the Oakenshield hair bead. So take this design and carve it onto this darker end so that it's one end is Durin, one end is Thorin. As this is a darker area, if I were to draw on it with pencil, I'm not going to see the marks. So I'm going to have to use a tailor's chalk, and I'm going to use the same method, mark it out using the elastic band, so on and so forth. Now because this is chalk and not pencil, it's very easy to rub off. So I've got to try and position it so that I'm not resting one end on the table. To do that, I've clamped it into this vise. Now it's not properly clamped in, it's just actually just resting in there. It's opened enough that I could slide it in and have the weight of it and the shape of it just rest in between the two parts of the vise, because I don't want to damage the surface of it, so I don't want to actually clamp it. But what we're going to have to do first is carve out these two lines around, just engrave them, so that then I can have a permanent view of where to do the rest of the design. So my attempts to translate the Oakenshield symbol onto there, it's not really working. using tailor's chalk on such a rounded surface, it's either wiping off or it's just too awkward to get something this straight to do that curved line along a curved surface. So I'm going to do something else for this end. I do want something down there. I might just make them solid shapes. I'll do these two bands in one colour. For these bands I just use the engraving tool to rough up the surface just to make it easier to stick the gilding to it. For applying the gilding paste we need to use a very fine brush just to try and force it into the engravings that we've made. It's best to use a cotton bud to clean up around the outsides of the rune, just so you don't get too much extra gold or silver stuck around the edges. Now if you're actually using gold or silver leaf, then you may be able to use just a ordinary paintbrush just to brush it into the engravings that you've made. Unfortunately, because I'm using a copper alloy that's designed to look like both gold and silver, it's a bit too stiff to do that, so I have to really rub it with my fingers in order to get it to go into the creases. Now after I did this gilding, I did contemplate painting over the horn in a black in order to get the gold to stand out a bit more. I'd have to redo the gilding. But then when I got up the next morning and the light was shining through the window and the glistering gold stood out against that bone white horn, I just fell in love with the way it looked. So although we can't capture the full glory of it on film, believe me, it does look really nice in person. Now when it comes to the stand, you don't need to build anything elaborate, just need a small block of wood that's wide enough for the horn to sit on. And we're going to cut a groove into it. First we're going to mark out the dimensions of an oval that in this case is 8 centimeters long and 1.5 centimeters wide, which works for my horn, but depending on the size of your horn, your groove will need to be a different size. And then first we're going to chisel that out. And then use wood carving knives in order to gouge out the last bit of wood. And then we need to test the fit, and as you can see, because of physics, the horn will sit inside the groove. Satisfied with the fit, we just need to sand it down to make it perfectly smooth and paint it black. Finally we finish up with some decorations. This says Durin's horn. And this is an image of Smaug from the map in The Hobbit. And so there we have it, ladies, gentlemen, and all variations thereupon. A drinking horn worthy of the most noble of dwarves. All we need now is some good ale and a call to adventure. So you feed them, you give them drinks, and what do you put the drinks in? A Darth Vader mug, a genie mug, some sort of muffin mug. Oh, oh, where did that come from? Oh, oh no, 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 no.